Hello, good morning. Welcome to this week's Inner Circle. The order of the updates today is going to be currencies, then commodities, indexes. We'll finish up with bonds and then earnings season because it's going to be a big week. So we'll start off with the dollar index. Had a signal on Friday. We had one on Wednesday as well, although that was minor and purely at that. Going into that monthly support point that we've known about for quite a while. However, that daily signal has simply gone pretty close to the daily support. Also, when I take a look at the short-term chart, it was also at the final support as well. So there has been some news overnight to do with the shutdown. So I've no idea what the response to that will be. We'll have to see what happens on Monday as far as that's concerned and see whether that follows through. So negatives on the dollar, but still a little bit of clarification required. That, not surprisingly, has transferred itself into various other things. So again, a major buy signal on the euro. I mean, that's 6 signals on one day, so that's a lot. You have to go back a long way to see that many. In contrast, that has not got any immediate resistance. I'll just check the futures to make sure that is definitely the case. It might be that we're coming into a weekly level, possibly. We've got a Henkin-Ashi there. There's still a weekly level on the futures at 115.03, so another 50 or so higher. So at this stage, it just feels like it's a buy signals in sideways, effectively. And there is still a bit of noise. Move across to the yen. Pretty subdued on the yen. Not much to report there. The pound's been pretty good. Likes the idea of delaying Brexit, and so we broke out on Wednesday. And we followed through on Friday. Note on Thursday how we come back down to that support point and held. As you know, I'm too close to the pound, so I don't get involved in it in any way, shape or form. It's too much random event driven. Move across to Aussie. Aussie's been something that was broken down and then had a reversal on Friday or yesterday. However, it didn't give us a signal as such, and it's closed a little bit above that monthly level. In the short term, it was enough to say, okay, there's no reason to be short, got to get out of that. But it goes to show that you've just got to look at the chart and see that it's not as strong as some of the others. If we do the Kiwi, Kiwi also reversed a few days before, but we've still got that big monthly level, 68.62, which is not too far away. And if we do dollar CAD, a major reversal on dollar CAD as well. So those two diamonds are timing points to say that the uptrend was over. We've closed below 3 down. We didn't quite reach that monthly level, 133.87, the high was 63. So some big move there. We'll look on Monday intraday to see whether, in terms of how it's broken short-term levels, to see whether it's something we want to get involved in. It is a little bit of a hostage to oil to a certain extent. And then we'll go straight into commodities now. So if we go to oil, had a negative signal during the week, but not at resistance. A little bit of a bounce, but pretty quiet after that. You've got some counterbalancing things there, some trouble in Venezuela, but then stocks of oil keep on going up. So there's a minor resistance, but support isn't close either, so that could really go either way at this stage. Talked about gold on Friday, had a short position previously, said that it was trying to build a buy signal, and that's exactly what it did. And has broken above the final weekly resistance. So big move on gold. Looking for it to come back into supports. If we get confirmation on the dollar, then that obviously gives you permission to be long gold, to go the other way, primarily because resistance is a long way away, not till 1392. So plenty of room on the upside there. Let's do silver. Silver, not surprisingly, also gave a signal, but not in a breakout mode, and you've still got these really big levels above 1595 to 1611 is a formidable barrier. Quick look at copper. Copper's still, that's pretty choppy, isn't it? There's no real interest there. Move across to nat gas. Filled the island reversal, drifted back down, pretty quiet. Now we have that, all the threes above, to see whether on any bounce, whether that would be respected for a short position. Conversely, we've got a decent support at 27.63, so waiting to see whether it could get to either of those. Have a quick look at the UK nat gas market. That broke down on Thursday, followed through on Friday. Target 51.36. Let's move across to softs and grains. I'll start with coffee. Long position in coffee. Real slow burner. Had the buy signal, and it short term has broken up just about. It wasn't entirely convincing. First target is 111.30, but our major target is all the way up at 129.35. So really the rally is purely, I suppose you would have to say, dollar related more than anything else. You also have to look at the Brazilian real, and that was pretty quiet. Interesting that we had a minor sell signal on Thursday, which is also, that sort of bodes well for coffee. Move across to cocoa. Pretty quiet, not much to report there. If it gets down to that monthly level, or even the weekly level at 20.95, would be interested. Sugar is pretty disappointing. If you take the Brazilian real, you take oil, and you take the fund short position, then actually sugar was very poor on Friday. We did have a sell at the beginning of the week, sorry, at the end of last week, and then it's given up the ghost. So pretty poor really. But still fundamentally interested in being long sugar at some point this year. We'll just have to see whether it comes down to that support zone that it didn't quite attack before, and see whether we can get involved. Moving across to grains. Pretty good end to the week. Soybeans had the buy of the previous week. We've just edged higher. I said before, it's very difficult to get overly enthusiastic about beans themselves, and there are some resistances just above. If we go to soy meal, not getting any love at all, is it? It's really losing on the crosses against bean oil, which is the one that we are long. Took some profits on Friday. Looking at the chart now, looks a bit premature. It did actually reverse quite early on Friday morning, but then we've accelerated back up again, and still on target 30.45 and then 30.85. So the balance of that position, no reason to not be involved there. Do corn. Corn had we get signals in sideways when that happens. We ignore them generally. So there was another sell on Thursday. It sort of reversed on Friday. Still very quiet, but interested in getting long. Can do it through long dated options or through the corn ETF. Wheat is one that we were in. the calls that were bought a while ago, the 510s and the 515s, were exercised. I added to the position for some very cheap short-dated calls on Thursday, which didn't work. A minor timing signal doesn't really mean anything in sideways and not connected to anything else. We've just got to get over this 532, do that, and then that would open everything up. We also need Kansas City to get its act together and move through this weekly and monthly zone, which is not very far away but formidable. Quick look at Minneapolis. Again, pretty quiet, a very minor negative signal on Friday. Not a lot going on there at all, really. Quick look at Rough Rice, my favourite. And pretty quiet, not really much going on there at all. Right, on to indexes. Start with America, S&P. Had a negative signal. I was skeptical of it. It wasn't at resistance as such, or not any major resistance. When we're in the middle of earnings season and we've got tech coming next week, invariably they get pumped ahead of it, and so signal hadn't really developed. We've got to wait till where we are on Friday. That's going to tell us everything, and possibly even the following Monday. And there was some good news on semiconductors, which got the Nasdaq going, which has been beaten up in the past, but didn't make new highs for the week. So again, we're just going to have to hold fire on that one. Across to the Dow future. Pretty similar story. Yeah, you can see the picture is the same pretty much everywhere. If we do the cash, cash is up against a little bit more of a barrier. It's interesting really that the Dow was a long way off its highs compared to the Nasdaq and the S&P, so there must be some underperformers in there. Do the Russell. Same as the others basically. Moving across to Europe, DAX had been underperforming, finally got some mojo at the end of last week. Again, really doesn't really want to know. Has just about made new closing highs. This is the area that we're really interested in if we can manage to get up there. Do the Euro stocks. Ooh, Euro stocks. Level is 31.63, high was 60. So we've got 31.63 up to 32.27. Performing a little bit better than the DAX itself. Not said the FTSE. Pound up, FTSE down. Had a negative signal on Tuesday. Respected the weekly level for a couple of days, but we've ended up closing below it. So, are you trading the FTSE? No, you're trading the pound. And so, again, it's a secondary instrument. Not really overly interested in that. Quick look at Australia. Doing pretty well, isn't it? Broken up a couple of weeks ago and still moving higher. Right, across to the bond markets, we had negative on indexes. Not surprisingly, that caused positives on bonds. Hasn't really developed, again not surprisingly, knowing where we were on equities. We've moved back down to the monthly point at 44.29, and that is the low to the tick. So again, we're in no man's land a little bit. Still trying to get long, but in the short term, sort of waiting to see whether it can either break up through the short term levels, in which case we'd be interested in buying strength, or it comes down to short term support and we see where equities are at that time. Similar story on ultras, so move back to that daily level. 10-year notes. Again, a still holding above that monthly level. 5-year notes. Hovering around, isn't it? It peaked out at the weekly level. Let's just check that. 114, 14.5. High was 14.5. So a little bit trapped, but still slightly negative, I have to say. If we go to the euro dollar part of the curve, not a lot going on. Moving across to Europe, I spoke to one of my customers with a long chat on Thursday. Very experienced European bond trader. Been doing it nearly as long as I have, and we went through some stuff. I'm not going to go through it today because it's quite involved, but it involves the splits or time area studies depending on what software you're on. And effectively what I was pointing out is that bonds actually, or European bonds, broke out in November, and everything is stepping up. So yearly, semi-annual, quarterly, monthly, the whole lot. And we're going to step up again unless we make new lows for the month, by quite a long way, because this is predicting the next month's levels. So there's absolutely no reason to be short. There was a buy as a continuation, gave permission to get long, which we are. There is no resistance. We both agree that at some point European bonds are a car crash, but it feels like it's a long way away. What's got to happen is these things have got to step up, and then they've got to step down. The monthly at least has got to step down and form some sort of resistance. So that's going to take time. It's as simple as that. It's really probably, you would say, we're looking in the window of March to May before we could even have the possibility of signalling some sort of major top. Just going to explain quickly what I mean by this. When we had the previous bond debacle, it's actually quite a long time ago now, just going to scroll back. Yep, so this is back in 2016, so we have a breakout, everything's stepping up in here. Then what happens is things start moving to the top. So the weekly went to the top, the monthly went to the top. You can see how the monthly splits is stepping down. Then here, it suddenly, the quarterly becomes resistance, and we break down, and away we went. And we got a sell signal on that day. That was the election, broke down. If we were to look at ultras at that point, they'd already broken down. So you can see what I'm talking about here. Yeah. So we're some way away from getting into that scenario in Europe. Go to the booksaw. Also a buy as a continuation. Third one accelerated on Thursday on Draghi, and no reason to stand in the way at the moment. If we do the bobble, bobble's also in breakout mode, but I suppose rates are so low that the shorter end of the curve you get, the less bullish fuel there is. You know, how negative can rates actually go? If you do the 2-year, you'll see a similar story. In fact, the 2-year is not actually doing anything. It's actually going the other way. So we don't need splits anymore. Yeah, completely different. However, if you do Euribor, that's a different story again. So there's definitely some. I'm trying to think of the reason. Actually, I know what the reason is. I suppose the reason is, when will QE eventually? Well, it is already ending, but when is the balance sheet going to actually start narrowing, as it were? Possibly as bonds expire. But if we do Euribor, sitting at all-time highs, had a minor negative, but it's still in breakout mode. France is the one that I'm the most interested in. Said for a long time that I'm waiting for things to move to the top, and we broke out on Thursday. Inside day pretty quiet on Friday, but again, still in breakout mode. Don't stand in front of the truck. BTPs Actually, the other thing about thinking about bonds, if you think about bonds in relationship to indexes, then they were incredibly powerful, really. BTP is also in breakout mode. Obviously, there's no problems in Europe at all. 134.23 is a target. Again, it's not the same in the UK with gilts. Gilts going the other way. Got some bullish fuel on Thursday along with everything else, and then gives it all back and more on Friday. So if there's anything to be short, it's gilts. There's also the play for those that can do it, where you're short gilts, long bunds, or short gilts, long OATs, short gilts. BTP sounds a bit dangerous, but yep. So if you don't want to get caught in the noise, then you can just put the spread on, because that spread is just continuously working in your favour. There's no reason at this stage to say that that relationship's going to break in any way, shape or form. Alright, so finally let's short sterling. Let's just see where we are there. Not one that only got a couple of people on the channel who trade this, but let's just see where we are. Yeah, pretty quiet, isn't it? So completely different from Euribor. I'm just going to feed that into the euro pound actually, because there's an interest rate differential building there. Yep. Okay. So euro pound broke down on Thursday. Bit of follow through on Friday. I've said many times on this. Normally breakouts on this cross are false, and I suppose this is, thinking about it, this is probably the first time that I feel that possibly it isn't, purely because of that interest rate differential, sort of giving people an excuse to get involved there. But keep an eye on it. Again, all things the pound, my advice is to leave it alone. Right, let's go on to FANG. So we'll start with Netflix. Got I think we've got Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook this week. So Netflix, depends which headline you read, whether they beat or missed the week before. The market decided that they missed. We had a good news, bad action trade, normal short-term one on the 5 minute. We've only had two, so there's been Netflix and there's been what was the other one? Old person's moment. Citibank. That was it. Citibank. Bad news, good action. That was. Let's just see what Citibank did afterwards. I must admit, I tend to lose interest after the second day. Some people hold on to it. You actually had a sell signal on Tuesday, so you would have been out of that long on the number. That was the day of the buy signal, so you're involved pretty much at the lows, down at 54, out around 62, or you probably would have been out of the weekly at 63.18. So anyone who is still long, I suppose you've still got a permission, but for me the trade died on day two. Let's go back. Amazon. We'll also have a quick look at semiconductors ETF. Amazon. Okay, so into results 1778, big level. So on the downside 1476 if they miss. So that's your reference for that one. Google. Google 1130. Let's make sure we got it right. 1135. So not a million miles away. Nothing really below. Apple. Well, I would have thought everything's in the price now, because they sort of put everything in the news before, didn't they? So unless things are even worse again, at which I would be amazed. It's sort of formed a base, isn't it? 150.24, no resistance as such. Microsoft. pretty quiet. 113.42 to 116.18 above. And Facebook, a hideous report on Facebook by somebody. It's very long, 75 pages. I read the final 20. Boy, I'm surprised they're not going to get lawsuited. It was so defamatory, and it was difficult to tell whether what they were saying was actually true. I'm not going to bore you with it, but market went down initially on it on Wednesday, and then it's come straight back up again. Who knows? That monthly level was sort of pretty close. Ideally, we either want to go below it, come back down again, and then we rally and we fail there, or the other way around. But we're going to have to wait and see what the number is. Finally, Tesla. Okay, so cutting some of his workforce, market went down, sort of bounced a little bit. I'm just going to check earnings season on another screen here, so bear with me. I'm just going to see if there's any really other big ones coming out. I think Caterpillar is coming out this week. Yes, so Caterpillar on Monday before the market opens. Let's just see where we are there. Probably it's doing okay, hasn't it? Big level at 142.41, so really interested up there. Good news, bad action. On Tuesday we got 3M. Big monthly level below. Wednesday we've got Boeing before the opening, so that's the biggest stock in the Dow. Bulletproof. There we go, that's interesting. Yeah, great buy signal at Christmas, wasn't there? So we're up against a weekly zone. We've got the all-time high at 394. Boeing just normally always beat. Be interesting to see. Again, I suppose we're interested in good news, bad action there. But doing pretty well. We've also got on that day McMurdo, my favourite. Remember, kids, nothing happy about a happy meal. There we go. Okay, so we had a major reversal on Friday. Got this final all-time high. I've talked about McDonald's in the past. I mean, the way that they do it now and how you have to get a burger on the very rare occasions I have that so much of a dietary emergency. It's just hell on earth. It takes forever. God, I just feel at some point everyone's just going to desert them. Maybe they're all addicted to burgers. I might be wrong there. It's a bit like addicted to phones. Thursday, General Electric, MasterCard, UPS. UPS will be important because it takes economic connotations. I think they've already downgraded themselves in the past. Some guidance, so there's a big level above there at 104.94. General Electric so big it doesn't really matter anymore. Yep, boy, went down to 6. 666 is the low. Oh, 6 Sigma. Oh, spooky. Right, I'm just going to update you on the days for the tech, for those that are a bit lazy. Okay, so Facebook is Wednesday. These will all be after hours. Amazon is Thursday. Google is following Monday, a bit later. Microsoft, we already have Microsoft? I think so. No, Microsoft is Wednesday. Then just check Adobe, Holy One Adobe. this. Apple's normally the last, but not this time. It's Tuesday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all after hours. So have to be on our toes. Just in conclusion, you can see where indexes are. They normally get hyped ahead of the results, and then we have to really very much zoomed in on whether they beat or they miss or whatever, and then what the price action is. That really gives us some decent clues. We do have minor negatives on indexes, but we're going to have to wait till the end of the week really to know whether these are for real or not. Normally a market can't trend until it's got all the information it needs. The other thing to remember is in a bull market, if ever a big stock missed, right, Nasdaq then go down, or barely, and then it would go roaring back up, and whenever something beat, it would go roaring up. We've actually had that change since the summer, where it goes up but nowhere near as much as what it used to. But then if something missed, then the index gets hit. It might not last for more than a day or so, but it definitely gets hit. So there is a slight difference in how the markets are reacting to the news. Dollar, of course, we've had that sell. It is still in broad sideways, though. Wouldn't get too over enthusiastic about it. Gold has broken up. You've got to watch that dollar. We've got that shutdown story, so we're going to have to wait and see on that one. European bonds don't stand in front of the truck long. No reason. The thing about it is, if the stock market went down, bonds would go up even more, especially in Europe. So it looks like a little bit of a sort of one-way ticket, as it were. Okay, let's leave it at that.